All right, Bang Bang. Today is Friday. It is December 3rd. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. True Crime Friday. I'm here with Allie. Before I really hop in it, though, I do want to talk about Upstart. I've been talking about them all week. You guys know the drill by now, because they're really here for people that are carrying a credit card balance month after month, and you feel like you're in that never-ending cycle of debt. They're here to help you, okay? So go check out Upstart. It's a fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan that's all done online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high-interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 1 million people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Rather than looking at a credit score alone, Upstart considers other factors like your income, current employment, and credit history to find you a smarter rate for your loan. You can check your rate without impacting your credit score in minutes for loans between $1,000 to $50,000, and you can even receive the funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. So find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/Eddie. That's upstart.com/Eddie, EDDIE. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. That helps us out a lot. And once again, loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. They don't just look at one thing. They take a lot of things into account, which could help a lot of people out. So give Upstart a chance right now if you're really struggling with debt, and go to upstart.com/Eddie. That's the way to go. All right, Allie, what are we talking about today?
This week we are covering Craig Price,
Okay.
the slasher of Warwick. Have you heard of him?
No.
I had not heard of this case. It came in as a listener suggestion. I tried to do as many listener suggestions as possible, and this one was one I had not heard of. Mm-hmm. It's over in Rhode Island, which I don't think we've done a case yet in. The hash-slinging slasher of Warwick. I mean, he's a straight-up serial killer, and I had never heard of him before.
No.
Now, he is actually one of the youngest serial killers in history. And again, it's so weird to me that this is not well known because he was super young. How
young are we talking?
When he first killed somebody, he was 13.
Holy shit.
Yeah. A child. When I was 13, I was, what's that, 8th grade?
Yeah.
8th grade?
Is that 8th grade? 7th grade, maybe?
I think so.
8th grade?
7th, 8th. Young.
Yeah, you're young.
15, freshman year of high school.
Because I think, you're right, because you get your license sophomore year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
A lot of brains are ticking today.
They really are. Okay, so Craig Price. He was this, teenage, 13 years old, I guess, football player. He was from Warwick, Rhode Island. He was someone who, he had the build to be a beast on the field. He was a football player, and he was built for it. But he had also this, baby face. So, he was kind of still a baby. He was 13 when all this started. So I guess that makes sense. 13 years old is when his killing spree began. Although I will say he had a criminal past, as much as you can have for a 13-year-old, with petty theft, and so he wasn't completely unknown to police. He had run-ins with them. He wasn't, on his best behavior all the time. But going from petty theft to murder, huge step. Now, he had this habit of peeping into the windows of his neighbor, Rebecca Spencer's home, who was a 27-year-old mother. Now, in 1987, like I said, Craig Price was 13 years old. He decided that he was going to break into Rebecca's home. And so he did. He broke into her home. He found a kitchen knife in her kitchen and stabbed her 58 times. Murdered her in cold blood. 13 years old.
Jesus.
Yeah, off to a brutal start. Now, so we're in the late 80s here. The murder went unsolved for the time being until another 2 years later in 1989 when Craig Price struck again. He broke into a different neighbor's home, Joan Heaton, and stabbed her 63 times with a kitchen knife that he found when he broke in. Now, the difference with this one is he not only killed Joan, but he also killed her 2 daughters that were in the house as well. So 3, all there. Boom, boom, boom. Stabbed everyone with a kitchen knife. Like, didn't come with anything. Didn't come with a murder weapon. Broke in, found a kitchen knife, stabbed them all to death. So at this point, he was 15. Like, brutal. That is literally the only word I can use to describe
That's
it.
like such rage. It's such a young age. It's crazy.
Yeah. And this second incident in 1989 was so horrific and such a brutal attack that literally pieces of the kitchen knife were found lodged into the bones of Joan and her daughters. I mean, like you said, pure rage. Now, at this crime scene, there were bloody sock prints left, and they were a size 13. So the police knew, all right, he was in his socks. He wasn't shoes. He wasn't barefoot. He was in his socks. Obviously, his socks get bloody. When you're stabbing somebody, that's not a clean scene. And at least they could get from this, they could tell his shoe size. Now, police started searching the streets immediately, up and down, for whoever was responsible for this triple homicide. At the same time, simultaneously, the FBI got involved and they noticed, hey, I think we have somewhat of a pattern here, because this has, a really, really similar look to a very similar case in basically the same area that took place 2 years prior. Also a break-in, also used a kitchen knife that they found there, same neighborhood. They started putting the pieces together and they're like, you know what? I think we have a serial killer on our hands. So
I found this on the web.
Whoa.
Siri found this on the web.
Whoa.
I'm so sorry.
Well, that's crazy.
She was finding serial killer on the web.
She's been listening to all
She's
your
been listening.
podcasts.
She's
How
always
about that?
listening,
Yeah.
Eddie.
I know.
I wonder what she thinks of me.
Fucking probably pretty scary for you.
She's probably, who is this girl?
Yes, you're on a watch list somewhere. that's for
I'm
sure.
probably
Raising
on a
some
lot of
red
lists.
flags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't look at my search history for.
Yes.
I would go straight to jail. Okay. Anyways, after Siri rudely interrupted us.
Siri, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And okay, so as a part of this investigation, Price, being that he's a neighbor, he was also, not only is he a neighbor, he's a neighbor with criminal history. Yes, it's petty theft, but still, it's going to spike more attention than somebody without criminal history. They brought him in for questioning. Now, they weren't getting a whole ton of anywhere with him. Again, he's a 15-year-old kid, right? That's literally the last person that police expect to be one of the suspects or even the culprit. But, they're doing it. They're covering all their bases. They're bringing everyone in and questioning them. Now, it took a very, very small piece, blew this case wide open. A detective that was speaking to Price noticed that he had this gash on his finger. And they knew that the killer had cut himself at the scene. So he put 2 and 2 together and he was like, hey, what size shoe do you wear? And Craig Price wore a size 13. And so this detective was like, what the F? This 15-year-old is our guy. Now, so they caught him also in a lie. So the detective was like, hey, where'd you get that deep gash on your hand? And they caught Price in a lie when he started to try and explain where this cut came from. So now all these things are slowly adding up. Being that Price was a minor, his mother was in the room with him when he was being investigated. Police are starting to catch on to, hey, this is his guy. They're starting to kind of put the heat on him. Price's mother is sitting beside him, completely distraught, just in tears. And that's when Price, ultimately, he broke and he confessed to all 4 murders: the 1987 murder of Rebecca Spencer and the triple homicide of Joan Heaton and her 2 daughters. confessed to everything. However, like when obviously this is a person who has some issues and is disconnected with the world. When he confessed, he was very like, yeah, it was me. I killed off, like super monotone, was not impacted by it whatsoever. Like his mom's over here crying. He just admitted to killing 4 people, like gruesomely, brutally killing 4 people for seemingly no reason at all. And he was just like, yeah, no, that was me. Like you can watch his confession. It's like super eerie.
Wow.
To like see this young kid just being like, yeah, you know,
like no remorse, no emotion,
no remorse whatsoever. And this is going to make you really angry. So he confessed to 4 homicides. Well, a homicide and a triple homicide. Now, he was, like I said, he was 15 years old. So he was a juvenile. The laws, again, were in the late 80s. At this time, he was 15, but he was actually just a month shy of his 16th birthday. So, being that he was this young, the laws stated that as a juvenile, the maximum penalty that he could receive was to be held until his 21st birthday. 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. For brutally murdering 4 people in cold blood.
I mean, I never know what the right answer is to all that because
it can be a case-by-case basis.
Totally.
But in this sense where he's like, you know, no remorse, no nothing, like stone cold, is just like, yeah. Now, this case actually led to the law being changed for the state allowing juveniles to be tried as adults for crimes that are something serious, like really serious, really brutal, like these kinds of crimes. But at the time that like this case got that ball rolling, but Price was already like grandfathered into the original law, so it couldn't affect his sentence, which made people even more upset. Now, the assistant, everybody, like when he was sentenced, everybody was like enraged over the fact that he just killed 4 people and he's getting 5 years, a little slap on the wrist. And it enraged people so much because 1, he had no remorse, right? But 2, he knew the law was on his side and he milked it. He was like, as soon as I get out of here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. It was just like,
oh, really? Then he got cocky with it?
Yeah, like throwing it around. Like he knew what was going on. And he was like, you know, I'm not going to go down for this. 5 years in jail. All right. I'll be out by the time I'm 21. So this just like made people, you know, even more enraged with him, including the assistant attorney general. Him, alongside several other people, rallied around the fact that this was like not even close to enough punishment for the kinds of crimes that were actually committed. And they made it their mission to make sure that Price stayed in jail longer than his 21st birthday. Now, ultimately, Price was kind of his own downfall. Like he was no candidate for rehabilitation. And that was even the state psychologist straight up said, this kid is a super poor candidate for rehabilitation. Like it's not going to do anything to him. Right. He's kind of a lost cause, essentially, is what the state psychologist was saying. That being said, Price caused his own troubles and he got himself more years in jail because when he was in jail, you know, he was not a model prisoner by any means. Ultimately, he was given an additional 10 to 25 years based on how he behaved for, several things. One, the state looked at it and was like, okay, the state psychologist said this is a poor candidate for rehabilitation. He's not on his best behavior. He is not a model citizen. He has no remorse. they actually ended up being able to slap a few additional charges onto him. And again, everybody wanted to make sure this guy stayed in prison as long as possible because of the fact of how brutal and horrific his crimes were in the whole 9 yards. Now, these charges, so they slapped a couple additional charges on him. These charges were criminal contempt because he refused a psych eval, which you obviously legally cannot do. So he got an additional additional charge for that. He threatened a correctional officer, so he got a charge for extortion. He got assault and violation charges for getting in fights while he was in prison. Like I said, like he was not doing himself any favors in there, right? He was not trying to like suck up or rehabilitate himself and change his life around. No, this was, he was who he was, and that was not changing. Mm-hmm. Now, along the way, Price tried to apply for parole. He was denied parole. He is literally the worst candidate for parole ever. He ultimately, after everything was said and done, was actually set to be released in 2020. And that did not happen because he just like really could not behave himself.
Keep his act together.
Yeah, he could not keep his act together by any means. In 2009, so he was set to be released in 2020. In 2019, so you are right there. He was given an additional 25 years for attempting to murder another inmate by stabbing him, of course. And just like really could not. I mean, this, I feel like this is one of those people who are just, lights on, no one home, not a lot going on up there. Obviously, he's got some issues, potential psychopath, sociopath, whatever you want to call it. Actually, not a sociopath because he was like a friendly, like popular dude when he was younger, and was like did not have trouble socializing, but was clearly, something was off the rails up top. So he was given an additional 25 years in 2019 for trying to stab an inmate to death. So he will be sitting in there for at least another chunk of time.
Yeah, I remember, and that's still not enough for this guy.
No,
like he's 48. If he's got 25 more years, like
yeah, he could still
be alive at
alive and well, yeah,
whatever that is. It's not enough.
No, not even a little bit. And like,
no, this guy needs to never see the light of day again.
Exactly.
And that's not to say, still doing that shit, like you could see that being 13 and 15 years old, but if you're still doing that shit when you're older, like
you're 40 something, like you're a lost cause.
There's something wrong.
Yes.
There's something wrong. Like rehabilitation obviously is a real thing, and you hope that that's what that serves, and people get better, and they see the world differently, and they get into better times.
Especially that young, like it's it can be absolutely possible, but not with Craig. He was doomed from the beginning.
And I'm reading here he bragged that he would make history when he was released. What the hell did he mean by that?
Meaning like, I murdered 4 people and I only went to jail for 5 years.
But like to make history, like do another bigger murder? I don't know. Like
maybe, yeah, maybe you could take that way too. Like he like that. He like loved to boast about it. He loved the attention. Had no, not even a thought about the fact that he murdered 4 people.
Jesus.
He was more so like, look at all this attention I'm getting. I'm going to make history. Yada yada yada. Like he is, long gone in the. Hopefully he gets in. I guess not hopefully he does something to get additional years tacked on. Not something that would hurt anyone else, but at the rate it sounds like he's going, he's not doing himself any favors to get out in 25 years either. So I believe he did try to appeal his cases along the way, but it wasn't
to no avail.
Yeah, it was no success there. So you know what? At least he didn't get released after 5 years. Yeah. Like that would have just been.
Someone else would have died.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And someone else already almost died and he's in prison still.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like he's an absolute danger to the public, obviously, but I mean, I feel like he's someone who should just be, probably kept away from
people. Yeah.
From people.
I agree completely. The Warwick Slasher. Mm-hmm. No, I had never heard of him.
Me either until somebody suggested it. So
yeah, I mean that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
but still, you don't hear him that young.
Mm-mm.
You don't hear him he was. I don't know. This guy's kind of. It's crazy you don't hear much more about him because there is different intricacies to this case than there's other serial killers, I guess.
Yeah, it's a super unique case where you would think he would be. It's so weird how just some cases do that, right? Like some cases blow up in the media, and some cases just like fly by the wayside. And when it's like a huge, not that any case isn't a huge deal, but like this is like unbelievable, and it's maybe in Rhode Island it's like super infamous. I don't know, but at least I had never heard of it before. But it's a crazy case.
Yeah, it really is. It really is crazy. But all right, Allie, thank you. That's it for today. Thanks everybody for listening. That's it for this week. We'll see you guys next time.